Hello and welcome to the 25th NFT Guild Roundtable. Today we're blessed to have DripDropz here joining us. You got Lloyd and Chris here to uh, talk with us. They are, as I said, from DripDropz. They're a fungible token distribution platform and here to tell us how the community can leverage their offerings. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Lloyd.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it. Thank you guys all for being here today, and thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. I'm Lloyd. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at DripDropz. My job is herding cats. That's just what I do for a living, and just take care of these brilliant minds and try to keep them as much on track as we possibly can. Chris here helps in our support arenas as well as in our sales arenas. He wears many hats on the DripDropz team and wears them well. So it's good to have you here as well, Chris, to help out today. And as Pete introduced, we're a fungible token delivery service, so that's kind of an important element. But one of the things that we do see is that there are quite a few NFT projects that do have fungible tokens, and there's things that we can offer as a platform to NFT projects if they're looking for ways to distribute fungible tokens to their holders. So, Chris, you might want to share a little bit about some of our latest tech that we have, and let everybody understand a little bit more about what that looks like.
Proof of hold is probably the most recent addition to that toolkit, and that's kind of spread spectrum there. It's not just NFT projects per se; it can be a strictly token project. But essentially, you can reward your community members for holding a particular asset, whether that's a policy ID, an NFT for a policy, or policy ID for an NFT, or policy ID for tokens. It could be something. I'll just throw an arbitrary number out there. They're holding 10,000 of XYZ token, or they're holding two, these NFTs. You can give them X number of tokens and as a reward.
Yeah, it's if you think about DripDropz as a reward layer on Cardano, that's really what we are, right? So if your NFT project wants to award, the holders of the NFT with any token, whether it's their own token or some other token that's available from the network, that's always possible to do with what DripDropz offers. I'll talk a little bit about some features that are coming up soon that I think are very cool. One of them is our instant rewards API. That's on the way imminently here, and that particular program is going to allow like a more granular control of when people are rewarded things. So if you have a game with your token, with your NFT project, for instance, or some community event that people participate in and you want to reward for that community event, that's where instant reward API comes in. So you'll be able to ping our system and say, this wallet earned this much of this token because they participated here. And then the end user will go to DripDropz to get that reward. The proof of hold, that's another great one. If you want to encourage your community to hold your NFTs and not swap them and trade them, that's a powerful tool to do that. You reward them for holding it by that. Now we have different metrics for hold. It can be by the length of time it's been in the wallet. That's one way we can do it. We can do it by whether or not they're staked in a stake pool. So I know a couple of you guys are stake pool operators, and if that's the way that you want to reward, partially your reward can be based on the stake pool and how long they've been staked at the stake pool. So there's lots of knobs you can turn with DripDropz. I think maybe if people are sleeping on what DripDropz is capable of, that's probably the biggest thing that I think we need to get the word out more about, is the idea that you have many different ways you can reward based upon the activity of a wallet and the way the wallet acts with your asset, whatever your asset is. And so that's probably the thing that we think needs the most understanding from the community. So that's what we're open for, is talking about all those different ways that you can reward people who are holding or using your asset with more assets.
Yeah, and something that's relatively new for us also is the ability to allow rewards to accrue for up to 7 epics. We haven't, when we first started 2 years ago, we weren't able to do that. So now it's, thanks to Andrew Westberg, that's something we're able to do now too. So your community members can, let their rewards build up for up to 7 epics, and if that's what they want to do, they can come claim them once every 7 epics.
Yeah, which is just over a month. So that's, the idea is that we tried to get that, if you wanted to be a once a month user, you could still be a once a month user for the platform.
That's cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I heard someone the other week saying, "Oh, I don't know what a drop. I had never heard what a droperator was. What's a droperator?" Like, I thought, I heard it was Kyle on a Twitter space. I thought he was joking. I didn't know that was a real thing. So, can you tell me what a droperator is and how that ties into the token distribution that DripDropz can do?
Sure. So this goes back to February of 22. In February of 22, the network was absolutely crushed. Sunday Swap had just started, DripDropz had just started, and these massive transactions were going on chain slowly, very, very slowly. It was like we found a problem in Cardano. That was a pretty major one. One way to work around that problem is by making sure that large transactions made it into mempools. What we were able to do is expand the size of mempools privately so that people ran a relay that had a large enough mempool to support holding our bigger transactions. And it worked. Sunday had something similar. They called them scoopers, right? And a network of operators that had a larger mempool, and that's what worked for Sunday. And then Drip had droperators, and that is how we got past this, massive roadblock. So it's a performance layer. It's really kind of cool because the oldest transaction still goes on first, right? So it's not like we could skip the queue. We were just getting back in the queue is all we were really doing, because there wasn't room in the mempools to support holding our big transactions. There just wasn't room for them. There's been some improvements on the network since then. We've worked with IO, and there's some improvements. The 8.1.2 node does have some fairness improvements that have made a difference. They've made an impact. We don't have a high grade of network traffic to test against right now to see just how good the improvements have been made, but we've done some stress testing on like the test nets and stuff to try to see, and there is improvement. It's absolutely better, but there's still a place for droperators and the scoopers and those kinds of things to keep the network running smoothly. And that's what our droperator network is. It's a network of stake pool operators who agree to run this extra relay for us. And in doing so, their delegators get more rewards. They get a higher drip reward along with some other exclusive tokens that are only available on the droperators network. So
yeah, there's a list of pools on the site. If you go over to DripDropz.io, you can peruse that and see which pools are droperators and see what bonuses, what rewards you'd be eligible for if you stake with those pools.
Right. And not only that, we actually also have it's open. Like if pools want to become droperators, that's also still a possibility. We want to grow that group of pools. It's not an exclusive club. It's actually open to everybody who wants to run an extra relay and give extra benefit to their token holders, or to their delegators.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, you have at least two different services then. One for the stake pool operators and one for token collectors, if you say it. Yeah.
Yes. So for stake pool operators, the value play with DripDropz is getting extra rewards for your delegators. I think that's always the case. Like anyone who owns a stake pool, like your job is to make sure your delegators are happy, and finding unique and cool ways to do that. You know, we all know Hosky, and they have their pools that are, you know, that fall under his network that get extra Hosky. That's a cool thing. So it's just kind of like, you know, there's ways to differentiate yourself, and one of the many ways that you can differentiate yourself as a pool operator is you could be a dropper, DripDropz.
Mm-hmm. So so then the stake pool operators, then they provide a relay and make some work for your platform then, and
That's right.
the delegators get the rewards from that.
Instant automatic rewards. If you're a dropper pool, you immediately get signed up for all the bonus rewards across the board, and there's several. There's 8 or 9 tokens extra that get higher rewards than their blockchain wide rewards if you're a dropper pool. So it's an instant value add to your delegators.
So is there a very complex formula for calculating your share of tokens in this?
Not necessarily. No, it's actually even. It's still first come, first serve, right? And these rewards do run out every epoch, but they run out only based on being a part of the Droperators network. And, you know, basically, if you get in the first day or so, you can pretty much get the rewards. You know, you can get your share of all the rewards. So
the NFT projects, then they send their tokens to some addresses that you hold, and then you distribute from those.
That's right. Yeah, DripDropz is a custodial solution, right? We hold whatever your reward token is. So you'll give us whatever number, you know. I can use my, like, the Resi. That's the token that runs underneath the Urban Farmer D app and the projects like Block Bounty and stuff that my teams work on, like that outside of Drip. That's the Resi token. Resi is it's a dropper token, and it's also got a proof of hold reward. So it's got like all the rewards that DripDropz has available. Like you get all of those rewards with Resi. I have to take my Resi token, give it to DripDropz, and they hold it, and then they dispense it according to the rules I set every epoch.
So if we take a step back and maybe you can walk us through a user story, as it were, of a new creator wanting to launch an NFT project on Cardano, because I saw some interesting use cases with your platforms with some NFT projects, for instance, choosing to distribute their whitelist token through DripDropz, for instance.
Yeah.
So how would a new project creator get on DripDropz if they're interested?
So it's relatively straightforward. You're going to go through Chris. Chris does, as part of the sales process, Chris does what we call RA, or risk assessment. So first things first, you're going to design your NFT project. You actually have to have it. It doesn't have to be fully launched and fully out there, but you have to know what you're going to do with the project. You have to understand what what your NFT is going to do and be utility wise, and what your token that you're going to distribute is going to be and do utility wise. Those things are important, mostly because we have a risk assessment process. We can't give away a token that would be used for gambling, let's say. We can't give away a token that you promise you own some portion of this company or business. That would be a security. Like there are rules we have to follow. We're pretty open though, like as far as what the rules are. Chris, you can pretty much share, right, what the expectations are. It's not a gotcha process, but it's super important that you have a business plan and you've laid out what you're going to do with your token and your NFT before you come to us, right? Then you come to us, you fill out a form, there's a little calendar that you use, and you set a schedule of the calendar, sit down with, it's either Kyle or Chris, depending. and you sit down and you go over what your token is and what your NFT project is, what it's going to do. Or if you already exist, if you've already got it out there and you want to come in and talk to us, that also works just fine. We go through that risk assessment. We tell you what it's going to take to get set up. There's a few steps involved. Depending on how complicated your process is, there might be some ADA involved as well, because if you need a lot of setup work, that there could be some ADA involved. Usually the cheap to free version is you go blockchain wide and you have minimal requirements. That's the cheap to free version, right? But the more complex you get, the more ADA it's going to cost in our time to develop it. So therefore we have to charge according to that. So, but we would go over all that with you, help you determine what you need, like where do you fit and where can we offer the best reward bang for your buck, get you in the system. And then, you'd go through that review with us, go through the risk assessment with us. And passing that risk assessment means that the next step is you go into our Discord server. We set a private channel for you and we walk you through setting up, getting ready. There's a bucket that you have to put the token to. There's a bunch of other items where you can fill out your Twitter and your Discord and all your social media. You put in a little blurb about your project, because part of DripDropz is discoverability, right? So you'll have that opportunity to fill that area out and get that ready. You'll put your token image in there so that we have it, and then our media team takes that and puts you into our promotional stuff, so you're ready to go the day that your token goes out, and we promote your token and you promote your token, and then you launch on DripDropz, and you're available there for your end users to collect, and hopefully other end users from around the network will see your token and collect it as well, and then you're part of the Drip family at that point.
Yeah, we mainly look for just a few things. We're a FinCEN, registered, business. We have to remain compliant with AML and several things like that. So we have to make sure you're not trying to sell security or anything like that. We want to look for any red flags, make sure you're not out to take advantage of the community, that kind of thing. But beyond that, yeah, like Lloyd said, we're pretty open. I will give you a pretty neat example. This is not an endorsement of any particular project, but the digital gold token team, they had a pretty complex setup. So what they ended up doing was they had I'm not going to get into specifics of their NFT launch or anything like that. They had a couple different NFTs, and they have 3 different tokens that kind of make up the infrastructure of their project. And so one of their distribution parameters was, if you held digital gold, sorry about the exact over there. If you held digital gold, you would be rewarded 12% of whatever you were holding each epoch. And so that was kind of neat. And then if you held one of their NFTs, you were eligible. They did a one-time drop of 10,000 tokens, and there was like 4 or 5 different aspects, and there was a lot of math involved. So it did cost them some ADA, but it ended up being really successful for their project and was a really good tool for them to use.
Yep. And that's kind of the bottom line. Like, we really want to work with the project and what the project's needs are. So, for us, it's like, it's not a matter of what's the, what's the most features we can get you to sign up for. It's actually the opposite. It's more like, what's your minimum viable launch look like? Like, what are the things you need to engage your community? And we work with you to figure that out and help you get that launched and running. Because, our goal is successful community projects on Cardano. We're a discovery platform. We're a launch pad in a way, but not a launch pad. Like, you can't buy the tokens on our, and in fact, that's one of the red flags for us, is we're looking for token projects that sold the token. That's not necessarily a full stop. There are ways you can sell the token legally and efficiently. And if you prove that you did that, then we can distribute the token for you just fine. But what we are not is like a token vending machine where you put in ADA and buy tokens. We're not that. We're a discoverability and distribution platform. So if you already own the token, we can help you get it distributed.
Yeah. And the KISS method is usually the best one for most projects.
It really
the simpler
is.
you keep things, the better off you'll end up being in the long run.
Well, and it's respecting your community, right, Chris? Like it's, it's really, if you get overly complex in your delivery mechanisms, you may confuse your potential clients, your potential end users of your product, and you don't really want to do that. You really want it to be straightforward for them, and you want to give them something that's a reasonable, straightforward value that they're going to appreciate.
Beyond this initial setup, what else would be required in time from a project? Is there a fee that needs to be paid for the ongoing services of DripDropz?
Generally, no. The only times we do have certain places where there's ongoing fees, where again, it's a very large amount of ongoing regular work, things like having to take snapshots every week or something like that. But beyond that, if it fits into our paradigm and it's automated in our paradigm, if the upfront fees are the only ones you're ever going to pay, the rest of the fees are collected by your community's participation and involvement, by them, coming in and requesting the tokens every epoch. Those user fees are what accommodates the ongoing server costs. That's how we keep the servers alive, is with the every epoch people coming back to Drip. So I guess if they make a big change, that's another way. That could, if they oh, hey, we decided this was great, but we now need to add this other more complicated thing on, then I could say, yeah, that's a spot where we might have to charge some additional ADA.
You mentioned benefits for holders of NFTs if they don't sell it on marketplaces for up to 7 epochs. I wanted to ask if there's a way to differentiate between a sale of an NFT and a trade within the same policy. For example, if a project creator decides that he still wants to reward his holders for swapping NFTs, but at the same time, the swap does not count as a sale, so they can still get extra rewards.
Right, and that's totally fine. One of the main rules we try to stick with is policy ID wide, right? That's one of the ones we try to stick with. So that's actually the easier calculation for us, is if they hold any asset of the policy ID. So that would not harm the swapping at all, because they've continuously held an item of that policy ID from whatever your starting point is till now, like if it's 7 epochs or whatever it is. And that's called the loyalty reward. The loyalty scheme is one where you get to a certain amount of loyalty rewards up to a point, and then that point is your cap, whatever that looks like. It could be 5, it could be 10. I think we've done 20 for stake pool delegation. Like we've tried, we've really stretched that number out pretty far. So you can be as little as like a 0.1 improvement every epoch for 20 epochs, which gives you 2 extra tokens, over 20 epochs or something like that. It's perfectly fine. Like the whole point is, if you're trying to build stability in your tokenomics, this is a good way of doing it, and that's what this looks like. We learned hard lessons with that. Like you could look at the drip price and see what happened. Like people were just dumping it instantaneously, and we're like, well, we really have to find a method for people to be more interested in holding it, and this rewarding over time and being consistent over time is what worked for that. That's what stabilized things.
Yeah, proof of hold is a really good way to manage some of that stuff too.
Yeah.
Because you're incentivizing people to A, not dump your token, and B, maybe go out and collect more on the dexes and whatnot, so they can get they become eligible for more rewards,
right,
depending on the project.
Yeah, we've managed to do both of those, have both of those knobs turned with Drip at this point. Up to 1 million Drip in your wallet gets you rewards. Anything above 1 million, it can go down, it curves down a little. If you stay at 1 million plus, it actually curves down just a tiny bit from that peak. And then the proof of hold over time, you've got the 20 epoch rule for the drop raiders network, that if you're with a drop raider for 20 epochs or more, then you're at the maximum reward there. So it's a nice combination of both the amount held and the number of epochs that you've held. So it shows stability. And that's ultimately what we do want to reward, is our people who are actually our fans, not the people who are just taking our stuff and dumping it. You know, I love the degens, but they make life hard sometimes. So it is what it is.
Is the proof of hold based on snapshots at epoch end, or so
the go snapshots? Yeah. You can actually, there's ways to do more too. Like we have some little kind of cool tricks where we take some differentiated snapshots during the epoch to kind of see if there's movement mid epoch. The truth is that that's very rare. We're not really seeing anybody like moving it around all epoch and then suddenly dropping it in right at the last minute for the go snapshot. That's not really happening. I mean, it could, you could write an arbitrage bot to do stuff like that, but that's so far not a real problem. So, but we are watching for that. And if it becomes a problem, then we can do dailies. We're ready to actually do daily snapshots.
Because this is where my question was going. So for instance, if I sell an NFT and then buy it back, but maybe in a positive sense, I was trying to describe it maybe in the positive sense of not wanting to lose my rewards. So for instance, I sell a more valuable NFT from one collection, and I buy a floor NFT from the same collection, something like that. And sure, if I still qualify to get the proof of
and that's a reasonable move. Reward. And I'd say I wouldn't want to penalize someone that was doing that, right? That's profit taking within an NFT ecosystem, and that's perfectly fine. I'm more talking like I get 10 million drip and then I put it in the the pool for for liquidity for 4 days of the 5 for the epoch, and then I withdraw it all, crushing the liquidity pool and then putting it back right after the the go snapshots taken. Like, that's crazy stuff. If somebody's doing that and causing problems, we want to stop that, right? But somebody doing like exactly what you just said, that seems fair and reasonable, that they are just changing out from one NFT to another within the same space. That's fine. I'm a shameless book collector. I have so many books from book.io, and I have gotten a couple of pretty good pulls whenever they've minted, and I've sold those and gotten, less expensive ones to keep holding a book in the collection. I've done that. It's how I can continue to be a book collector, is occasionally taking a little bit of profit so that I can keep buying more books. But, and that's perfectly cool. And that's kind of that to me is like the acceptable usage of the system. You're clearly a supporter of the ecosystem, therefore you should be rewarded. And there you go. That's what is Drip really trying to do. We're trying to identify clear supporters of an ecosystem, a token project of whatever sort, and make sure their users are rewarded well for being good participants.
It was interesting when Alexander Monad did the unsig token. So anybody who held an unsig, held that policy ID, was eligible to claim that token. And the token's purpose is he's working on some other project, and then you'll be able to use that token to get that project. But how the market reacted to that was pretty wild. I was not expecting that. Mm-hmm. But that was another interesting use case,
Absolutely. And you never really know how the community's going to react. That's been one of the interesting things that we've learned, is that, sometimes it's a crazy ride. Other times it's kind of a fall flat thing. And, that's why, again, we try to promote the keep it simple methods. We try to keep the, we try to make sure that the end users can engage with the project and what the project is desiring to do. Like, that's the trick. And, we don't get it right every time, but we sure try. And,
Yeah, I'll open it up for questions from anyone else. Senator Kyriakos.
I have one more. The collection of NFTs, or not NFTs, but tokens that you receive each epoch. Can you see those in advance before you take them down and select which one to receive?
Yeah,
Or do
absolutely.
you need to take down the complete package at once?
No. So you have options. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. If you're a basic user of DripDropz and you don't have our pro feature, you're actually presented with a list of all roughly 200-ish, 200, 250 something. Chris, you can correct me on that. It's gotten up there. It's on its way up, you know. But however many tokens that's available across the whole network, you can actually see, you put your wallet address in and it'll just give you a list of everything you're eligible for, you know, big long list. And you can pick from that big long list. You can pick, if you're not a pro user right now, you pick 10 at a time, any 10. You run and run through the transaction process. It just takes a few seconds, and those 10 will get delivered to you. Then you can go back and you can repeat that until there's no more tokens. So you can get as many or as few of that, you know, that list of 200-ish tokens. You can get as many or as few as you want of them. And you can do that every epoch that resets. It just starts all fresh again. So as soon as the epoch turns over, you're able to go right back into it again. Gosh, Chris, May of last year, June of last year, something like that, we introduced Drip Pro. I think that's right.
Yeah, that sounds right, May.
Yeah, beginning of the summer last year, we introduced Drip Pro. And with Drip Pro, it's a one-time cost of 10,000 drip. You pay in the 10,000 drip and 2 ADA. You get your 2 ADA back as change minus transaction fees. And then you get access to what's called multi-drip. And multi-drip lets you pick up to 20 wallets, so you can put 20 different ones. I have one for each of my kids. I have 8. We have 8 kids. My wife and I between us have 8 kids, so we've got lots of wallets. One for her, one for me, and one for our business. So we've got a total of 11 wallets that we drip every epoch. Now, what's cool about multi-drip is that you can pick up to all of the tokens, and you can do one transaction fee that covers all of the tokens, and you can get them all. You can get every token on DripDropz by pushing the button once, up to 20 wallets. So, and that's the multi-drip feature in Pro. Right now it's the only feature in Pro. We've got some more coming, but that's the primary feature in Pro right now is multi-drip, and it allows you to collect as many as you want.
Yep. If there's stuff in there you absolutely don't want to get, you can go in there and put it in your poop bucket.
Oh, that's right.
You don't have to worry about seeing that token anymore.
Yeah, we've got heart and poop. So if you really like the token, put it in the heart side. If you really hate the token, you can put it in the poop side, and otherwise you can do with it as you like. Kyriakos, what's your question, man?
Yeah, first off, thanks for being here and giving us a bit of an insight about what's operating on the other side of like the DripDropz webpage. I had one question, that is whether have you catered to like DAO distributions, like DAO governance tokens and stuff like that?
We definitely do. That is absolutely one of our methods. If you look at the list of all the types of tokens, governance is a type of token that we distribute. So absolutely, in any way that's meaningful to you that you'd like to distribute a DAO token, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you know about it, but I'm working on a DApp, and in the future it's supposed to be like a decentralized organization as well, like a typical DAO, and it should have a governance token therefore.
Thank you.
And a couple of it's quite in the future for now, but I'm starting to think about okay, how do I make sure, for example, that stuff like that doesn't get in the security territory, for one, right? And on the other hand, I'm more interested in like a usage-based distribution, but I don't want to overcomplicate the validator logic. So I was thinking about like, okay, does it make sense to have it like distributed in the actual transactions, or do you want to like make it a bit more involved, but have a better solution after that, you know, and have it external? And I was wondering whether you guys have any sort of guidance for that, or if you're interested in collaborating with projects that are trying to do such things.
Sure. So I'll start. I mean, I have to start with the kind of obvious caveats, guys. Like, first of all, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial advisor. You know, okay. You know, excuse, disclaimer, et cetera, right? Okay.
Heard.
All that out of the way. We've learned some lessons along the way, and this is kind of the way we think about these things. Okay. If you want to avoid the security territory, you look at the US Howey test and really pay attention to it. You do not offer a token that you say gives you monetary compensation for holding the token. Don't do it. Period. It's not worth it. You're running right toward the security paradigm. So don't sell the token. Don't promise with the token that they're going to get some future value from holding the token. Avoiding those two things avoids 99% of the trouble that you will run into. Okay. Now, as far as how to issue the token, you know, to the people who gained it in whatever fashion that they've gained it from you. This is where instant reward API is probably the strongest play. So you in your community decide that certain amount of work needs to be done, and you agree that that work was done, and then you reward that token to that individual as a part of their notice I said part of, you know, if you also either it's a fully volunteer effort and they get no monetary compensation whatsoever, and they agree there's no monetary compensation whatsoever, or you monetarily compensate them, and then in addition to monetarily compensating them, you offer them voting rations that go along with their participation. Okay, and that's what your voting token has to be. Now, why do I bring that into play? If you give them the token as payment for their work, you've potentially created a security. You've potentially created a stock option that you've sold to that person in exchange for their work. So either they are agreeing that they are fully a volunteer and they're doing all of their efforts on a fully volunteer basis, or they've already been fairly compensated for their efforts. And in addition to being compensated for their efforts, you're asking them to vote, and therefore you're providing this token for them to vote with. So you see the differentiation between that and, you know, and paying someone with a token. Now, is it wrong to sell your token? No. Is it wrong to give someone your token as payment? No. But you have to follow the rules if you're going to do that, because you're aiming into security territory. And if you do those two things, you need to be prepared, and you need to have filed all the proper paperwork with whatever jurisdiction you live in, and you know, and you have the proper people in place that handle those kinds of things. It's not illegal. It's not. That's kind of one of the weird kind of things. It's not illegal for me to hold a securitized token. It's illegal for the guy selling it to sell it to me without having followed the rules properly to give me the token. You see what I mean? So I'm always, your end user doesn't get in trouble. It's you that gets in trouble if you don't do this properly. And that's, you know, that's why I led with all the caveats, and that's why I can give the advice the way I'm giving it, which is, you know, seek out proper legal counsel, seek out proper financial counsel. But you can go any of these methods. You just need to make sure that you're following the rules for whatever methods you choose. Is that pretty fair?
Yeah, but it still doesn't obviate a lawyer, right?
I know. And the
I was kind of hoping
expensive.
that DripDropz is gonna, you know.
Right.
No, it's okay. Thank you very much for the insight. It's
yeah.
I completely understand it.
Thanks.
Sweet. Any other questions? I can I'll poke at the future a little bit. What's in the pipeline, Lloyd
right.
and Chris?
Well, I mean, you guys may have seen Main Street. That's definitely in the pipeline. Talk about having to make sure you have all the lawyers in place. Holy wow. You know, we are dipping our toes into peer-to-peer commerce. Part of structuring peer-to-peer commerce so that it will work is having good reward incentives. So the way that we feel we shine is by encouraging individuals to work together and to commit commerce with one another, and rewarding them all for doing so in a good way. And that ultimately is what Main Street is. So we did the research. We've hired the lawyers, we've hired the accountants, oh man, we've got relationships with some of the big names that are required in order to facilitate these kinds of trades back and forth between people. And so that's right there. Sorry, that's right there in the pipeline and ready to go to that next level. We have a Catalyst proposal for that that's out. So if you search the DripDropz Main Street, you'll see a Catalyst proposal for it. It's actually this round entirely administrative fees that we have to pay. There's $285,000 of fees and bonds and arrangements with others. So this is zero money coming to DripDropz. zero Lovelaces for DripDropz. But we're hoping the community is going to support us to finish this next major step for the app so that we can start getting it in people's hands, because we can't without having all the legal I's and T's dotted and crossed. So that's the step we're taking now. We have some other proposals that are out that are not related to Main Street, but that's sort of our big shiny, beacon on the hill kind of project that we have working on. But we're also doing some really, I think, very cool stuff to help both with governance, the upcoming governance stuff that's happening. I'm sure if anybody's been under a rock, we've been doing Voltaire governance for the last year. All of 2023, we've been talking Voltaire governance. So there's some stuff in there. There's an Arweave gateway. The Arweave gateway is going to allow, one of the major things for governance actions in Cardano is a really truly permanent way of storing what happens in what the governance action is. So Arweave's a really neat way of making sure that something's permanently out there and can never be modified and altered. So we're linking Arweave with Cardano, making it to where you can pay with ADA in order to, rather than having to get Arweave and then make transactions, do all those things yourselves. Instead, you can just have ADA. You can just pay us ADA to cover your Arweave costs, and you will get back your Arweave proposal. Now, what that leaves is there's this kind of hole in financial accounting that has to be filled. And so it's another proposal we've put out. It's the fiat and token accounting system solution. It's colloquially known as fat ass, because it's a pain to complete, to keep up with all of the token accounting that has to be done. But that software is going to watch the chains and take either fiat or any particular asset like ADA in exchange for performing a service on a different place, a different blockchain, for instance, or taking fiat and performing a service on the Cardano blockchain, and then accounting for the fact that the money was received and that the money was spent on this action, and then the blockchain action is listed in your accounting system so that you paid for a service that was rendered, and we can provably show that in a typical modern double entry accounting system. So that's what that proposal's for. And then the other two major proposals from there are two proposals on our governance platform, our voting platform, which is completing right now the Fund 9 proposal. We're actually just, if anything, days away from providing the on-chain final vote to prove that we completed migrating our tool to an open source tool. And we're adding on 2 new features to that. One is about making petitions, which if you guys followed the Catalyst Circle v4 vote, there were 38 participants that asked to be voted in Catalyst Circle. There was no real rigor as to how people got to be put on the ballot. So what we actually are implementing is a system that allows you as an individual that wants any kind of ballot action to go forward, that you collect digital signatures prior to being allowed on a ballot. And then that number is set by the admin. It's not that we set any particular number, it's that the admin of the voting tool says, I need 10 million ADA worth of signatures before you go on the ballot. No problem. You go out, you collect 10 million ADA worth of signatures, bam, you're automatically on the ballot. And then one of the other things that we noticed in the governance talks at Edinburgh and Longmont was that there was not a good way of doing temperature checks that were provable. So what we wanted to do, and this will be very good for NFT projects as well, is it's a gated polling. So you can only participate in the polling if you, at the time of a snapshot, had one particular asset in your wallet, whether it's ADA or whether it's, whether you were delegated to a certain pool or a certain DREP, whether you had a certain NFT. That's the gated portion. And then the poll is presented. You take the poll and you submit, and then it doesn't allow you to resubmit. It's a one-time submission, so there's no gaming the system. As a DREP, this is going to be hugely important to get a temperature check as to whether or not I should vote for or against something for my delegates. And so that's the other tool there.
Yeah, governance is an ongoing development in this ecosystem. I know I know you mentioned the CCV4 vote and the tooling that DripDropz brought to the table for that, and that was cool to get that on chain. I know I wanted to chime in a little bit about the prerequisites for those candidates. I know that the group that I was part of, the group that was coordinating that ballot essentially, and the prerequisites were a platform statement. So yeah, you're right. There was no ADA amount or anything like that from the community that signaled, oh, we want this candidate on the ballot.
Exactly.
It was voluntary. This is my statement. Put me on there. Yeah.
Right. And it can be both ways. We're not doing away with the model where you can just provide a platform statement and be on there. We're not doing away with that model. We're just offering, we took feedback from the community after the vote. And one of the big questions was, how did we get so many candidates? Like what? I'm like, well, there wasn't anything there that was a gatekeep other than writing platform statements. So because of that, it was anyone that wanted to could be there, and that was fine. That was what that vote was set at. We're hoping to make these more concise tools available just so that projects have them. So if they choose, hey, if you've got 50 of my NFT, you can propose something, to our community. It doesn't mean you're going to win it. It just means you can propose it. Or maybe you even say, hey, my largest holder has 500 of my assets, so it better be 550 that sign on, so I don't have a problem where this person can always just submit ballots, right? There could be so it can work both ways. It can be a limiter, or it can be an opening, like a rewarding thing of saying, hey, so it's neat, and I like that we have that approach, and we're hoping that these new tools are gonna improve governance, because governance is hard, to quote Adam Dean and a few others from Edinburgh. That was probably the most resounding thing was governance is hard, because it is. And so more of this tooling, less friction, hopefully.
And all these additional pieces of tooling that, I mean, they inevitably lead to new and novel ways for people to achieve some means, and who know, things that nobody's thought of yet. And that's the fun thing about a lot of this stuff is, going back and thinking about like how far this entire ecosystem has come in such a short time. And it's like the small tools have made huge paradigm shifts in everything,
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's
we'll see a
beautiful.
lot more of that.
Yeah, me too. Curious. It's beautiful to watch things grow, and we're definitely in a little incubation chamber right here next to Catalyst, proposing our ideas and yeah, dream weaving, or as Darlington likes to say, code dreaming. I like that term.
I do
Anyway,
too.
any closing thoughts from the guild and first, and then Kyriakos?
Yeah, I had a closing question.
Mhm.
So you mentioned the peer-to-peer commerce system with the Main Street suit. Would potentially an NFT creator, let's say, be able to tie his NFT collection to physical goods that he might want to sell directly to his holders? So let's say you can buy this physical art piece, but only if you hold 5 NFTs from the collection or stuff like that.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Exactly. Exactly. Like the point of this is opening up the tooling to people that are in the community now, also people that are not, but to people in the community to take their native assets that they have, that they are the owner of, and expand that into the real world, into peer-to-peer commerce. It could be coffee mugs with their NFT on it. It could be whatever they choose it to be, but that's exactly it. And can it be gated by holding the asset 100%? Or can it be open to anybody that has the peer-to-peer app? If that's the way you want it, it works. You can even take into account the idea of ownership of the individual NFT and being able to make items based on just your individual NFT as well. Like, so if that's the way the project wants to go, that your particular art that you have, you then have the commercial rights to put it out on Main Street and do your thing, go for it. That works. How do you as the NFT project want to allow your community to take their art, their assets, and work with them?
And what will the suit provide to a potential creator? Like, will it be similar to a Shopify? Will it have both a front end for the store and a back end for handling
Invoicing, inventory management, all that stuff is going to be wrapped into this. I mean, you have, there's basically three main paths here. You have C2C, peer-to-peer, customer to customer, B2B, business to business, and then C2B, customer to business. Yep. And you can, if you wanted to accept Visa, US, and USD, you can do that. But if you wanted to, your customers to be able to pay you however they want to pay you, and you only receive ADA on your end, your customers never know the difference. They're coming in there swiping a Visa card or sending you Bitcoin, and you're getting ADA. Now, as a business owner, that's how I want to operate. I want to receive ADA. I don't want to receive USD, but the cool thing is the flexibility. You're not tied to any one currency.
Right. You can choose 50% USD, 50% ADA, 50% USD, 25% Bitcoin, 25% ADA. It's you make that decision as to how you want to receive. And then when you go to pay, you pick from any asset you hold that you want to pay with, and it could be 3 or 4 assets. I'm going to pay with 2 Bitcoin and 25 Ethereum. That's an expensive item, but whatever, maybe you're buying a car or a house or something, but I'm going to pay with 2 Bitcoin, 25 Ethereum and $1 million ADA. Put that in, and then and the guy on the other side only wants USD. Well, it sucks to be him, but he got his USD, right? And that's fine. That's what the system. It is a Babel fee system, so it honors the seller and the buyer as to what they want to receive and what they want to sell entirely.
Beautiful.
That question for that answer.
One more time,
All
Rose?
right.
I said thank you for the answer.
Ah, got you. Thank you. Got a little trouble hearing. Thank you.
Awesome. It's the start of the Project House Town Hall, so we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you for being here, Kyriakos. Sorry I butcher your name repeatedly during these calls.
No, it's okay. It's actually correct. Kyriakos is correct. No problem.
Heck
No
yeah.
problem there.
All right. Well, everyone have a beautiful Wednesday. Thank you for your time and presence. Peace out.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
guys.
having us.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.